It's a very good and warm welcome to the Global Business Podcast show today to Nicole Lamond. How are you, Nicole?
Hi, Mark. I'm great, thanks.
Welcome aboard my sailboat. Oscar and I are sitting here eagerly waiting to have a chat to you today. Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm sitting in the office in South Yarra looking out into an empty street.
An empty street?
Yes, streets are very empty here in Melbourne.
Yeah, we better explain to the people around the world that are tuning in today that you've gone into a little bit of a, additional lockdown down there in Melbourne, Victoria, haven't you?
Yes, we are. It's forced solitude. We're allowed out for an hour a day to go shopping or to exercise.
Yeah.
So I've been spending a lot of time with my 3 teenage kids at home.
Oh, I bet you they're keeping you busy.
They are. We're a house full of introverts. I think on the Myers-Briggs personality test, we're all the same. So we all get along very well, actually, and we all do our own thing and then, come together at different points throughout the day and check in. But, we're all good.
Fantastic. Have you found this whole COVID experience kind of a enlightening and refreshing way for the family to come together and do things that perhaps you were, very busy before and didn't have time for?
Yes. Yeah, we used to spend a bit of time having kitchen table talks, which I love because I love the teenage years. A lot of people sort of bemoan their teenage kids, but I think it's a really exciting age because you're just coming into being an adult, you're getting a bit more freedom, you're asking questions about the world and who am I and what do I want to do. So I'm always keen to facilitate those discussions because I think they're great. So we have been doing a lot more of that. A lot more just hanging out and, what are you doing? Nothing. Maybe you should turn off the computer.
I was going to say, sometimes with teenagers, it's a challenge to get them off the device, isn't it, to have a real conversation. But do they come out with anything that shocks you sometimes?
I probably shock them more, actually.
Well, that's a good way to be, absolutely.
It's a bit of a joke in our house that I'll be the first to leave home.
That's a good one. Look, one of the things that I do on my show with all my guests is I offer you the opportunity to actually dedicate this show to someone special in your life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
Well, I'd have to pick my 3 kids.
I knew you were going to say that.
We're pretty close, and they get to see all the ups and downs of business. They often say, they can tell how business is going.
Do you tell them you know how school's going as well on the other side of the coin?
I can usually tell somewhat. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, we better have a shout out for them. So what are their names?
So we've got Noah and Anya and Sarah. The girls are identical twins.
Oh, fantastic. That must be exciting.
Yeah. So they're all pretty close in age too. Noah's 19 and the girls are 17.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. And have the twins got up to playing tricks on people yet?
A little bit. Some of their teachers have a bit of trouble trying to work out who they are. And they're very... they work at McDonald's, but they work at different ones, and they hate it when their twin goes into their workplace because, they say, don't do anything embarrassing, they'll think it's me.
Yeah. I would love to. It's something that I've always thought about is I'd love to be a twin because I would get up to so much mischief. I'm sure it would be absolutely fantastic fun, I reckon.
Yeah, they do have a lot of fun.
Anyway, we're here to talk about business, and we're gonna get into that. So, let's go back to school for you and university. What was the aspiration as far as a career meant at that stage? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Look, I could probably pass over this part of my life pretty quickly because I didn't really have any aspiration. I think my aspiration was to go out into the world and just learn about the world, really. But when I was 16 and still at school, my best friend and I thought it would be really fun to go skydiving.
Oh.
So we went off and did that, and I really loved it. And that sort of became the focus of my world for the next 7 years, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
and I just really worked odd jobs, part-time jobs, sold stuff. I was an apprentice chef for a while. Basically just did whatever work I needed to keep feeding my skydiving habit, so to speak.
So you were taking this pretty seriously, the skydiving thing?
Yeah, I was really into it. I'm quite competitive, I suppose, and I really enjoyed the sport aspect of it and the flying and making formations. And we ended up competing in the Australian Championships, and sort of third was the best that I got to.
Oh, third's okay in the Australian Championships. That's nothing to be scoffed at. But I do want to say something about skydiving, because I think it should be a mandatory process in everyone's life. I think there's kind of no better way of understanding yourself as those last 3 seconds before you jump out of a plane. I think it's just the most defining moment of your soul. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yes, you have to really trust yourself. And you have to have faith that you're going to be okay. If anything goes wrong, you're going to keep your wits about you, and that you're going to handle the pressure. And I think, in a sense, it's a really good learning ground, and particularly fear, because in business there is a lot of fear when you're an entrepreneur, and they talk about this point of no return when you start a business. You get to a certain point when you have to push the button, and whether it's invest a lot of money or do something which you really can't go back from. And that's, skydiving is a great learning ground for handling fear. So I think I learnt a lot, actually, that I didn't realise at the time, but I definitely can look back and see that I'm using a lot of those skills that I learnt.
I love the comparison. I'm going to use it from now on the show, because I think it's such a good one for business in particular. Yeah, when you jump out that door, you just don't know really what's going to happen. You've got to be ready for everything, every occasion that can happen. How many jumps have you done?
I did about 950.
Wow! 950. Did you get some kind of medal for that, or did you want to get to 1,000? Is that still an aspiration, to get to 1,000 jumps?
No, I think skydiving's in my past now.
Okay, so no.
I'd rather go sailing.
So what made you stop? Like, was there a defining moment that you said, right, I'm over this now, you just done enough?
Well, it was it's a bit of a long story, but the short version, up until that point, as I said, I really, straight from school, I entered the world of skydiving, and that really was, it's all encompassing. You just virtually don't know anyone who doesn't skydive when you're a skydiver,
right?
Apart from work. And so I hadn't really experienced a lot of the outside world. I'd travelled to the States skydiving and done different things, but it's, it all revolved around skydiving. So when I had a bit of time available, I was in Sydney actually, and I just sort of wandered around the city and had a look, and I thought, wow, there's a big wide world out there outside of this. And I thought, I think it's time to try something else. So, and also I was cognizant that I didn't really have any skills. So I thought, I better have a think about what I want to do with the rest of my life.
I'm reading a book at the moment about addictions, and I'm finding it quite fascinating in terms of from the psychology point of view. Do you think you were addicted to skydiving at one stage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've also got to be mindful that addictions are not always negative things, so they can bring a lot of joy if managed in the right way. Now, on to business then. So what is it you do today? Tell us about your business.
Yeah, so along with my business partner Julie Hirsch and I, we run Eloments Organic Vitamin Tea, and it's essentially the world's first natural vitamin tea. And it's and our mission as a company, because we're a Fairtrade company, our mission is to really help accelerate the world's transition to a living wage for all people. And we do that through only trading in certified Fairtrade products. Now, Fairtrade, there's sort of a lot around involved in Fairtrade, but the crux of it is that the growers who grow our beautiful teas and spices and herbs in developing countries get paid a fair price for their crops, and that there's no child labour and bonded labour and things like that.
Okay.
So
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you and Julie come up with this idea? Why did you want to start a organic tea company, fair trading company?
Well, I'd been involved in tea already, Fairtrade tea, for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that story obviously goes back quite a way.
Mm-hmm.
Julie and I met actually in a writing group.
Right.
I like to write creatively.
Yep.
So we met in a writing group that used to meet down on the Yarra River in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And the leader or organiser of this group was a bit, I don't know the right word, different.
Different.
So we decided to start a bit of a breakaway group. There was about 5 of us. So we went and started this group. And we met actually for about 2 or 3 years until we actually got, we knew each other well. We'd submit writing each fortnight, we'd critique it, but we didn't actually know what each other did for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few years, we sort of said, by the way, what do you do? And so we got to know each other more outside of just writing. And Julie was in the not-for-profit sector working for, she was Deputy Director of the Australian Youth Climate Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running a fair trade business, and we got talking, and we both loved tea and health and wellness. And I thought, this woman's really sharp. She's great. I want her on my team.
Yep.
And so I asked her to join me in the business.
Fantastic. How long ago was that now?
That was 4 years.
4 years ago. What got you into tea originally? What was the attraction to tea?
Well, I was travelling in my late 20s. Around India and East Africa, and I had connections with World Vision, and I'd just done a lot of volunteer work for them, and I went and visited some of their aid and development projects, about 5 of them in different places around India, and I was in Kenya, and I visited a tea plantation where World Vision was operating a project, and I met with some of the families who worked, the parents of families who worked on the plantation, and visited their homes and that sort of thing. And they basically lived in abject poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they were working full time. And I could really sense the uselessness of this situation. Like here you've got people just like us trying to live their life, love their kids, have a decent life. And they lived in a shack, could not afford to send their kids to school. And yes, there was World Vision was there providing some great services. But I just thought, this is ridiculous. These people are working. Why aren't they getting just paid enough to afford the basics in life and get ahead and do all the things, we all want to do? So it just, in my naive head, it didn't make sense. And I thought, well, this is just wrong. Can't all these people see that it just should not be like this? And so I still really just have that attitude. I mean, you look at business leaders around the world and you think, well, they could change it. They could change it, but they're not. So I thought, when I came back to Australia and read about fair trade and trade justice, I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a fair trade business.
Wonderful.
That's sort of how it started.
I love to hear stories about how people are doing things ethically, and I'll get back to you about businesses changing a little bit later on. But I want to ask you some more things about starting a business. There's a lot of people that are watching my show at the moment who are in that throes of thinking, is it a good time to start a business now? What do I need to do, and all the rest of it? So let's go back to when you and Julie started off. What are some of the things that you found more difficult than others when you started a business together?
Well, I'd already had the other business running for 12 years, which was running quite successfully.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't sort of starting from scratch,
right?
In that sense. So if you're asking about starting from scratch,
let's go back to when you started from scratch, because I think that's more applicable.
Yeah. So I had no idea what I was doing, and I set up a desk in my spare room, and I knew how to sell things, so I just sort of picked up the phone and started selling. I'd managed to procure some fair trade tea and coffee from a local church group. This is back in early 2000s. No one had really heard of Fairtrade, but there was a little church group out in like way outside of Melbourne, who just had a little bit of Fairtrade stuff they were selling at church. So I got hold of that and started selling some. And actually, my first customer was the body shop.
Right, fantastic.
I rang them up and said, "Hey, I've got this thing called Fairtrade Tea and Coffee," and they said, "Oh, okay, we'll try it."
Right.
Yeah, but things really didn't progress very much. And then I had 3 kids, so that things virtually ground to a halt for a number of years. And this is where you've really got to hang on to your dream and your faith. If you can't, like I couldn't really leave the house because I had 3 kids under 3, and was sort of, couldn't really work much for a number of years. But sort of held on to it and did a little bit, sold a little bit here and there. And I went to, my financial skills weren't strong enough really, I felt, so I enrolled in a Masters of Entrepreneurship at Swinburne University, and luckily got in. And then I went on and did the Masters over a number of years and learnt lots of skills. Asking for help when you don't know something is probably the biggest lesson that took me a long time to learn, because I'm quite independent and used to just doing things. So that was a big, and still is a big lesson. I have to remind myself to go and ask for help if I don't know something. But it's all about the hustle really, and just getting out there, asking people, asking for the sale. And I'm a big one on crunching the numbers. Because hope, and I know other people have said this too, hope is a terrible strategy for running a business. It really is. Yeah, indeed.
I guess going back to some of those things that you've just mentioned, in terms of educating yourself to become more financially and business savvy, I guess in terms of that's what you get out of what you did from an education point of view. Looking back on that now, do you think that's imperative that you did that? Has it helped you enormously? Would you recommend it to other people to do the same if they haven't had that kind of background?
Yeah, absolutely. I first of all enrolled in an MBA actually, and did the first year, and I found it really pretty dry and pretty boring. And then I switched to the Masters of Entrepreneurship, and that was a lot more up my alley because it was a lot more hands-on. It was more about smaller business rather than the corporate world, and how corporates are structured and how they operate. But definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went on to do a fundraising round. We had a friends and family round, and then we went on to raise close to $1 million in a fundraising round last year. So having all the knowledge from my degree definitely helped with all that. Yeah, and I knew where to go looking for the information that I didn't have, and I knew all the sort of lingo that you get around, private equity and stuff like that. So absolutely, it really helped. Yes.
Yeah, great advice. What about mentorship? Did you have any mentors in your inner circle when you started your business?
Yes, I've been very lucky to have some fantastic mentors. Absolutely. I've had a few over the years. The first one I had, when I got my first products into Woolworths, I had a mentor who really pushed me to do that. And it was one of those moments where, because I've never worked in the corporate world and have never really worked in business, and was really new to it all, I was really lacking in confidence. And I thought, oh my God, I can't go to Woolworths and sell a product. I mean, it's just little old me. And also I didn't have support networks. I didn't really have friends who were corporate people or successful business people, because I didn't move in those circles. And I think that's the thing that really mostly held me back in the beginning.
Right.
It's just that visualizing. You can't visualize yourself in those positions. So, but anyway, I had this mentor, and he really said, look, the kind of product you've got with the business structure, you need to be in a major chain, and which was absolutely true, and I knew it. And it was like jumping out of a plane again. It was so scary. It was more scary.
We're going to be using that analogy a lot, I think, on the show, for sure.
Yeah. But I went along and got the account. So and that was a huge hurdle for me personally. And from there, I really went on and grew exponentially from there on.
That must have really helped in terms of confidence and self-belief when you see the advice coming from others that you actually go and implement, and one, you know that you're able to do it then, and then secondly, the advice has been sound advice. So did that kind of increase your confidence in trusting other people's information that was coming to you as well?
It did. Yeah, and I tend to trust other people. I have a sort of optimistic view of the world and of people, so I don't find that too challenging. I've also had other mentors. I met up with in the early 2000s Corinne Noyes, who is you may have seen her tea, Madam Flavour.
Yep, I have.
Yep. So she's the founder of Madam Flavour.
Okay.
We worked together for a while, and she's obviously fabulous at her job and a great marketer, and a really lovely person. And she taught me a lot about the nitty-gritty of marketing. So I'm really grateful to her. And also I have two business mentors, Graham Robertson and Dale Simpson. Dale was lecturing actually at Swinburne University, and he got up in front of the class and he talked about how there needs to be more love in the workplace. And a lot of the students were sitting there thinking, oh yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, this guy's great. I need to meet this man. So so we met, and he's been a fabulous mentor ever since. He's wonderful.
Yeah, I want to also talk about that a little bit later in the show as well, because I think we're starting to see that as a trend throughout business across the world at the moment, whereas we break down into a world of more authenticity and rawness and vulnerability. Love is also coming through as a major weapon in business, which is great to hear. Now, for people watching and listening to you talking about mentorship and finding these people, how do you go about finding these people to bring into your inner circle to get this kind of advice from? How did you go and find these people other than a lecturer at university?
Through networks. Definitely networks, talking to people. Graham, who's the chair of our board now, he was networked with Dale. So you need to know people like Dale who are, as he says, networked like rodents.
Right.
And
it's a nice self-title.
Yes. Tapping into networks. Just asking people, when someone says something interesting, I think to myself, I want to know that person, so I'll shoot them a message on LinkedIn and say something interesting that might resonate with them, and try and catch their attention, and just through talking to people, and showing interest, because if you really show interest in something, people will remember that. Whereas if you're just making small talk, it's too easy to forget. Whereas if someone knows, she's the Fairtrade woman, or she's the tea woman, and then they hear something else about Fairtrade or tea, they're more likely to connect you. Yeah, so really talking about your passion.
I like the word listening a lot, because I think we don't do enough of it in general, and you hear all sorts of things when you become a better listener, and podcasting has taught me that. I've become a better listener because I've had these on all day, every day, and I'm actually listening to what people are talking about it. And it's really true though, because there might be a little bit of golden nugget there, and if you're not listening properly, you may not pick up on it, right? Tell us about the tea industry in Australia. So getting into the industry in Australia, is it a big industry? Is it a competitive industry? Are there a lot of players? Tell us about the landscape.
Yes, well, there are a lot of players, big and small. So it's dominated by the big players, Unilever and Twinings, and Tetley, which is owned by Tata Tea. So you've got those big players, and then you've got a lot of really small players, and a few in the middle, such as Narada would be one of those ones sort of in the middle, and Majura. And what we've been really lucky with is that Woolworths are really they're championing a lot of small brands actually. And I think they really like the entrepreneurialism and the innovation that the small brands bring to the table that perhaps the big brands don't. So, yeah, we've been really lucky in that sense. There's not much manufacturing done in Australia, or some, but, yeah, not a lot. Most of it's offshore.
So Woolworths strategy, and for people listening around the world, this is one of the big supermarket chains in Australia that we are talking about at the moment. Has that been because of a change in management in Woolworths that they've started to focus on the entrepreneurs a little bit more, or what happened there for you to see that change?
They're always looking for new products that their customers will love, and they're looking for innovation. So we, of course, brought them Elements, and I pitched the product to them about a year before it was ready, and they were quite interested because it was so new and so different. That it was a vitamin tea, it was natural, and there's really no other product like it actually in the world at the moment. Yeah, so they could see that it was something that would really resonate with their customers, and we did a lot of market research, and people just really loved the idea because people look to tea as a sort of healthy beverage. Whereas, coffee, which is great, we all love our coffee, but, you don't want to drink too much of it and you don't want to drink it all day. Whereas herbal teas and green teas, you can drink all day. And it's also a great fit in the sense that if you're into natural food, Elements is natural, whereas the supplements that you'll find in the supermarket and on the chemist shelf are all pretty much synthetic. So that natural element really resonates with tea drinkers who like to be healthy.
So how did you find your suppliers, and how did that process unfold in terms of, was it a case of just getting on a plane and going and visiting places around the world, or how did that unfold?
Yeah, so that's a great question because it was such a journey. So I thought of the product and market researched it, and consumers loved the idea, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to make it. And Julie came on board about this time, so we went through that whole process together, and she was really instrumental in helping me bring it to market. So I started off thinking it'd be great to manufacture in Australia.
Yeah.
So talked to some manufacturers here, they couldn't really do it, do what I wanted. We went to Sri Lanka, tried some manufacturers there, they couldn't really do it. Went to the US, and we ended up in the UK.
Right.
So, and this is really, this is why we ended up, I think, with such a great product, because it had to be natural. Like I personally try and eat only natural foods. I'm not into synthetic stuff or plasticky stuff or whatever. So I wanted to keep it natural, and it had to be Fairtrade. So though they were not negotiable, and that was why it was so difficult to make. Like we could have used binders, artificial binders, and other manufacturing aids, but I said no, let's not do that. Let's try something else. So it was really the commitment to our purpose and our sort of vision for what we want the brand to be that is how we ended up with the product that we did.
Very important business tip there, I think, in terms of not giving in to what your end goal is, right? And I think a lot of people sometimes compromise too much when it comes to their product or their service, and they may end up putting something out there that's not true to themselves. So I applaud you for staying true to your original plan of getting it out there, which takes a lot of courage, because sometimes there could be a shorter path by giving in to some of the alternatives, right? How long did it take you to get from conception to having your first batch ready to go?
So it took 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that journey like? Was it frustrating? Was it energizing? It must have been a bit of everything, was it?
There was some pretty low moments, I have to tell you. But I have to say, and to Julie's credit as well, we never even discussed giving up. Like giving up wasn't an option, but there were some pretty low moments, especially when we got to the UK. We had some some sort of a bit of success, and then we had some failed attempts. And, you know, I can just remember sitting on a train heading back to London. We'd just had a meeting with one of the manufacturers, and they were, you know, like, it's not going to work. Sorry, we can't do it. And we just felt like we'd exhausted so many options, and we just thought, oh God, is this the end? or no, it was more like, oh, you know, how are we going to solve this? How are we going to get around this? But we were sort of like, okay, let's just drink tonight and we'll think about it tomorrow.
What a great approach. It always tends to help, doesn't it? Because it relaxes you and it takes your mind off a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had quite a few moments like that, I have to say.
So going back to the partnership situation, I find this really interesting, because there's a lot of people out there that have thought about, okay, I've got a good friend I want to go into business with, or I've got my brother or sister. I just had a chap on the show the other day who's been in business with his brother for the last 20 years, and they're going as strong as ever, and they love working together, which is not always the case. So what happens in terms of, or how does one go about finding the right partner to partner within a partnership?
Yeah, see, I never thought I wasn't looking for a partner. And I think it's like finding a romantic partner, I think. You can't really plan it. You just meet someone and you click, and there's someone that you could see yourself spending a lot of time with. I think Julie, during that R&D process, I think Julie and I only didn't see each other for 4 days in a year.
Right.
We spent a lot of time together, and we were traveling as well, and we were staying in very cheap and nasty and tiny hotel rooms together. So, we survived a lot. I think one of the hotel rooms we had to take it in turns to get out the door.
That's minimalistic.
That was probably a low point. But yeah, no, it's so I wasn't actually looking for a partner, but it's a great question, and it's one that I would totally rely on your gut feeling to take on. And some of the qualities that I think make our partnership really successful is just I guess self-awareness, and that we both have that degree of, understanding what's happening when we're communicating, and the willingness to be open and vulnerable. So, we've had difficult conversations, and we just are always really respectful of each other, and we respect each other's place in the business and how much we each bring to the table. So that's really important. We also prioritise the relationship.
Do you make decisions collectively, or is there one that ends up making the ultimate decision if there's a tie and there needs to be a veto?
No, we always make collective decisions on anything important, yeah.
I think what you said before about gut feeling, intuition, is not used enough in business, and I think people need to trust themselves more when it comes to that gut feeling. That's why we have it. It's a feeling that's making us connected to some kind of emotion, and generally it's pretty right. In fact, I've read a few books about it, and there's a very high percentage of accuracy around your gut feeling if you actually feel something from an authentic place, right? So use it more, people. Get out there and use your gut feeling more. Now, let's talk about the impact of COVID-19, and let's go back first of all, before we talk about that, in terms of late last year, 2019, and the things that you and Julie had planned for 2020 without a virus on the horizon at that stage. What were some of the things that you had planned for this year for your business?
So I was going to be heading back to the UK to work more on the market there. So obviously that didn't happen. Because we were in the UK, or manufacturing in the UK, so we thought, well, why not? We should be selling in the UK as well. And it's a great market for tea, obviously. The Brit love their tea.
They sure do.
98% of them drink it.
98%?
98% of adults in the UK drink tea.
Wow. Okay.
And they drink 3 or more cups a day.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a huge portion of the population.
Yes, yeah.
So you were going back there to crack the UK market basically this year.
Yeah, well, we're already in 500 stores there.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so we're already selling there. But, you know, the market needs a lot of nurturing and a lot of attention. So we've got to do more of that. But we've already got some traction there. So we do what we can from over here.
Yeah.
For us, we did have some business in the US as well, so that got put on ice. We actually lost some purchase orders there because of COVID, because the stores were closed. Yeah, so we did lose business there. But there's been some other positives in the sense that it's given us a renewed focus, and I think a lot of people are saying this. Just that focus of being stuck in one place and shedding some of the distractions and really honing in on I'm a really big advocate of critical success factors in business.
Yep.
So like for instance in our business, every business has about 3, and ours are, you know, the product has to be on the shelf, people have to love the product, and we have to have cash. So they're our sort of critical success factors. So just focusing in on them and our key channels. So that's been really good. It's given us that extra focus.
So how often do you address those critical success factors in your business? Is it something you reflect on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis? What's the process behind that?
We have a few different checkpoints throughout the year. So Julie and I are really big on reviewing, and so we have quite formal reviews. So as we review each other's work. So twice a year we'll sit down and do a review of, you know, what were the goals that I set for myself 6 months ago? Did I achieve them? Why not? And we do the same for her and our other staff as well. So we do that, and then we have monthly check-ins. And we also, every day, 9:30, we have a Zoom call with the staff. And we talk about what's our rock for today.
Right.
Everyone has one sort of chunky task they're aiming to get done. And I don't know if you know that rock and pebble analogy.
No, tell us about it.
No? Okay. So if you've got a jar, you put in the bigger rocks first, and then you put in the stones, and then you put in the pebbles, and then you put in the sand. But if you put in the pebbles or the pebbles and the stones first, you won't get the rock in. So it's the analogy of doing the important big thing first and making sure you get that done, and then do all the other little bits and pieces. So it's not getting lost in your inbox and 2 hours passed and, oh gee, I still haven't done that really important thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so we've got skydiving and we've got rocks and pebbles coming at us today, folks. So these are all great things that we can use. Now, in terms of those reflection processes that you have internally for staff, how many staff do you have, first of all? How many members of the team?
So we're a very small team. We've got Julie and I. We have my son Noah, actually. Who just started his commerce degree, so he does some accounts and some admin for us. Right,
fantastic.
We have a couple of VAs in the Philippines. Who are wonderful, who we love dearly, who are part of our team. And we have Justin, who does a bit of ad hoc work for us on the side. And we have Simone, who does marketing for us. Okay, great.
So it's really like a very intimate team as far as numbers goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And how did those members of the team react when COVID-19 came along? Because one of the things that I've been asking a lot of business leaders on the show is, you know, it's all very well as a leader, you know, you're strong and you're leading and all the rest of it, and you're probably a person that's got a lot more experience in life in general and all the rest of it. But a lot of people that work for our companies are people that don't have that same amount of experience, and they've probably been hit quite a lot by what's happening with COVID-19. Was that the case with your team? Did you have to do some nurturing around that?
A little bit. I mean, we set people up online, but I'm very hands-off manager, very hands-off. I just expect that people are going to do the right thing. I trust them. We really look for competency, but not just competency around skill, competency around self-management and self-motivation and that sort of thing. So we just work with everyone and reach out to them and, hi, how you going? Like Simone's got 3 young kids, so she's finding it pretty tough at the moment. But, I can relate to that. I've been there. So it's just a matter of being flexible. And they're all, the staff are adults, so I treat them like that.
Yeah.
And we've all got aligned values, so from that respect, I'm just here to support them if they need it, really.
You seem to be the type of person that chooses their team members very carefully, making sure that those value sets that you talk about are aligned to the organisation. Is that something you put a lot of emphasis on when you're working with people?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the greatest things about running your own business is that you get to choose who you work with and who you spend your time with. Because, time is all that we have. So I want to make sure I'm enjoying it.
That's why I've got my puppy dog Oscar sitting next to me right now. He's my favourite choice as my team member, that's right. For sure. Now, in terms of COVID-19 and the impact on the business, did you have to pivot your business model at all? Was there any defining changes that you had to do? How has it actually impacted your business?
Well, we're in the grocery industry, and the grocery industry is, of course, booming. So from that aspect, we didn't have to pivot too much. We are speeding up our move to online more, particularly in the UK. There's a lot more online shopping going on, so we are pivoting more to online, which we're working more on now, such as Amazon, for example.
Has that been something that's been difficult to embrace, or is it just a natural part of the business extension that was going to come but may be coming a little bit faster now because of COVID-19?
It is a bit difficult in that it's not my skill set. We do a lot of digital marketing, obviously email and social media for our promotion. So in that sense, we're quite skilled as a team, but not so much in e-commerce. So we are madly skilling up now, definitely. Okay.
What's this period of COVID-19 taught you as a business leader?
To stick with your mission and your goals, I think, and just to keep, which we're really strong on in our business. So to stay focused on that. The fundamentals are so important. The boring, mundane stuff around cash flow, stock control, knowing the numbers, they're all so important. Making sure you're complying with all the Q&A, quality assurance and food safety regulations and all those myriad of things. But just to have the fundamentals down, and I'm really big on creating systems and processes and predictability. I really like that in operating. So we've done a lot of work on that over the last 6 months. So we're really seeing the benefits of that now. Like, we weren't madly scrambling to when everyone was working from home and we were suddenly separated, we weren't madly scrambling to what do we do, how do we do this. So it all went fairly smoothly.
Like jumping out of a plane, right?
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the key attributes that a business leader should have and embrace during these changing times that we're in at the moment?
I think the issue of trust is probably a big one for a lot of organisations that have resisted having their staff work from home. Are they working? Are they playing with the dog? Are they, just what they're doing, or are they as productive? But, it comes back again to, I guess, treating people as mature adults and affording them that respect. And, most people will give it back in return. And if they won't, I guess you ask them why. What's going on for you? Is this not something you're aligned with? Is this not your passion? What do you want to do? Because it's someone's life as well. And I always feel that work is really, I love work. It's a part of your life. It's a part of who you are. It's not just something you tack on the side and just have to get through. Trying to make it more enjoyable to people, and so they can see it as part of their personal growth as well. Because work is a great tool for personal development and growth as well. Yeah,
indeed. Tell us about the fair trade industry. Is it booming? Is there a lot more businesses now operating under the fair trade activities? Is it something that we're seeing as a result of COVID-19 growing, or is it just something we saw naturally growing beforehand?
So it is growing around the world. Absolutely, consumer sales are growing. Not so much in Australia. Like tea sales, fair trade tea sales in Australia sit at around 3% of the total tea sales through supermarkets. And some of the major brands have dropped off fair trade. It is, one of the frustrating things is that you're actually sort of penalised for doing fair trade in the sense that, it's more expensive. There's a lot more friction points for trade because it's all audited. That's the thing, is that we have to report on all our sales. And it's great that it's audited because we can then stand behind the product, and, people who buy the tea know that we're actually audited by an independent third party. So it's not growing as fast as I would like. But it's growing around the world. It would be great to see more businesses come on board. And it's difficult again for the big companies like Nestle, etc. Because if your mandate is profit driven, then why would you spend more? If that's not in your mandate.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that, and I said earlier in the show that I wanted to address that because there's I see a groundswell of businesses around the world now starting to move towards this more ethical authenticity, showing vulnerability, being much more personal, the word love coming into marketing campaigns a lot more. I'm really seeing a shift, and I think it's not just something in my mind. I think it's something that's really, really happening, and I talk to people like you and other business leaders. I had a gentleman on the show the other day from Japan who was talking about happy money, and he's written books about happy money and how we're seeing a lot of other things that are worth chasing in our lives that are not attached to the financial gain of everything, and that it's all about these other components that you talk about. So I think there is one of your favorite words, hope. I think there is hope in that area in particular. Nicole, I wanted to ask you, for people out there today who are running a business and they may not be in as fortunate position as you, and being in an industry that's growing today, they might be in fact struggling in their business. What's some tips of advice that you would give them in terms of the way they're leading their business at the moment?
If you're in a business that's struggling, and I've been there in that position before and had to turn things around, really looking at the numbers and running different scenarios, because the numbers don't lie. And I cannot emphasize that enough, is to really know your numbers and what will happen financially in different scenarios. And then you've got to come to the realization of, okay, is this idea just not going to work? Or what do I have to do to make it work? And then obviously acting accordingly. And just making sure that your idea, whether it's a product or a service, there is actually a gap in the market for it, and it's something that consumers care about. Because if you can offer a product or service that will affect people's lives, if they care about it, then they will buy it. and you've just got to know why they're going to buy yours and not the competition's. Like, you have to be able to say that in a few words clearly. So I love the area of sort of opportunity evaluation and looking at different ideas. That's really fun, I find.
Yeah.
But if you can answer those questions, what is your product or service? Why is someone going to buy it? Why are they going to buy yours instead of the competition? And how much are they prepared to pay? If you can answer those questions, you've got a viable business.
Yeah. Someone said to me a long time ago, if you're not getting money into your business, then it's a hobby. It's not a business, right?
Yeah. And one of my favourite sayings, which I always used to tell Julie, is, spending money does not constitute a business.
No.
So you can spend money, but you don't have a business without money flowing through the business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, tell us, so we're going to get the crystal ball out, and I'm going to ask you, where is your business going to be in 2 years from now? What's the vision for your business in 2 years' time?
So our vision is very clear. We want to be the vitamin tea brand in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be in supermarkets around the world and online.
Okay, becoming the number one vitamin tea company in the world.
Yeah.
How far away are you from realising that ambition now?
Well, we're pretty much at the start of the journey. I mean, we sold our first cup of tea a year and a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in Woolworths stores around the country already, and we've just launched a new variety of tea, bourbon vanilla, a few weeks ago.
Bourbon vanilla?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really yummy.
Okay, I bet. Yeah.
We're in 500 stores in the UK, so we're on our way. But a lot of work to do, which we're really excited about diving into. Yeah,
fantastic. As far as competition goes in this specific space that you're in, is there a lot of competition at the moment?
Well, there's a lot of teas, so really all teas are our competition.
Your competitions. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a couple of synthetic vitamin teas in the UK, who are very direct competitors. But we shout about the fact that we're natural and we're certified organic and we're Fairtrade. But most of all, it tastes great.
Now, I've got to bring in a personal note here when I'm talking about tea, because I'm somebody, and you've probably never spoken to somebody like me in your life before, because I've never had a cup of coffee in my entire life. I'm 55 years old. And I've only had a very limited amount of hot tea drinks. I'm a cold tea drinker. And I've really gone to these infusions that you can buy to put in cold water. Is that something you're doing? Are you getting into the cold tea market?
No, but we probably will. And actually, one of our latest blends called Urban Defense, which has zinc in it, which of course is great for immunity. That's actually really nice cold. So we'll do some promotion around enjoying that one cold. So we'll send you some of that one to try.
Put it on the list. I'll be a sampler. Yeah. I'll be a happy sampler for you and recommend it if I think it's fantastic, and I'm sure it will be as well. I think the cold tea market, and I don't know, it may be just because I'm in that space, but I think it's something that's growing quite phenomenally around the world. Yeah.
Well, about 70% of tea is consumed cold in the United States.
Right.
So they're definitely onto it there.
Yeah.
We will look at that, absolutely.
Okay, well, brilliant. Nicole, it's been fantastic having you on the show today. I'm going to leave another 30 seconds for you just to share any wonderful tips and pieces of advice you'd like to with my audience today about business, and particularly about current times that we're in at the moment.
Just don't lose heart. You just have to keep going. It's going to be tough, and there's moments when you think, oh, why am I doing this? But you've just got to stay true to the vision and the dream and keep going, and you will get there.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Well, listen, it's been wonderful having you on the show today. Thank you very much for giving me your number one commodity, which is time, and sharing time on the Global Business Podcast. I'd love to get you back in the future, because I'm sure everybody wants to know how the tea lady's going, and if she's got global domination in a couple of years' time, we'd love to have you back on the show, Nicole.
Thank you very much. And people can head over to our website at elements.com, which is elements with an O. And there's an option there to pick up a sample if you'd like to try some of our delicious vitamin teas.
Fantastic. Do that, everyone. And I'm going to put all the links to Nicole's business in the show notes today. So if you want to reach out to Nicole maybe and get any tips, but also more importantly, check out her teas and see how they taste. Nicole, thanks again. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. It was wonderful.